All right, CNT140, we are working on our patch panel lab. So previously we terminated an outlet onto our horizontal cabling. We're now going to terminate the other end of our cable run onto our patch panel. That's what we're going to do. So we will need the following out of our toolkit. We'll need our punch down tool. These might be handy, our electrician scissors to trim the end of the cable. We'll need our jacket stripper. We will need the meter, and we will need the two little yellow patch cables in the toolkit. We will need those. And we will need the patch cable that's in, or excuse me, the patch panel that's in our toolkit right here. So I'm going to set a couple things off to the side just to make my area a little easier to work in. Here's my horizontal cable run, and I'm going to open my patch panel. And I got rid of some of the packaging already, but the bag that's around here you can get rid of, and most of the papers in here you can recycle. I'm going to keep the, you can actually recycle the box if you want to, and just leave, you know, the directions here and the patch panel, and put those back in the toolkit when we're done. That's fine. All right, as you get the patch panel out, this is a small one. I purposely ordered a small one for you guys so it would actually fit in the toolkit. But this is a 12-port patch panel. This would be, the back is going to be identical to what you would have in a 24, 48, etc. It actually has a little mounting bracket so this can mount onto a wall behind a desk or something. We're going to take the bracket off so we can get to the back of the patch panel. And this bracket, if I just kind of squeeze these little white ears out, allows the patch panel to come up, but I can take it out of the bracket, and I can just set the bracket aside for now. So we really want just this piece that we're going to terminate onto the back of. Alright, so there's my patch panel I'm going to terminate onto. Here's my horizontal cable run with my outlet from before. And I trimmed mine down just for sake of, I terminated one end is a, you know, making sure everything worked okay, and then I have this one that I'm demoing for you guys. So I kind of cut my blue cable in half. You're welcome to do that too if you wish, but here is my horizontal cable run. I'm going to prepare this cable to get terminated on my patch panel. Now, before we do anything, let's take a look at the patch panel. We have ports 1 to 12 here with little labels that we could write on, you know, printer, access point, whatever. We'll notice it's category 5E to match the cabling that we're dealing with. As I flip it over, I will see, let me see if I can get this a little closer. There we go. We have ports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You always want to orient yourself on where the ports are located on the patch panel so you know you're punching into the right port. For us, we can choose one of the bottom row. I'm just going to tell you, look for a spot that has not been terminated before. Now this being a patch panel you got out of the box today, there should be none. But if this is, you know, the spring semester, one of these might have been done, so look for another one maybe on the bottom row that has not been done yet. Alright, so let's maybe do like port 6 or 8 or something like that, just somewhere along the bottom here. The next thing we want to do is look closely at the color code. Just like the outlet jacks, if I zoom in here real quick on port 5 and 6, you'll see next to port 5 I have T568A color code, and next to port 6 there's T568B color code. So this printout here has both color codes on depending on how you terminated your outlet jack. Now we terminated the outlet jack with 568B, so we want to make sure we're following the 568B color code listed on the bottom row. And it wouldn't matter whether we're terminating the top row or the bottom row here, I need to follow that bottom row color code down here. So what I did to make life a little easier visually for you is I actually got my Sharpie out and I marked the color bar down here, blue, orange, green, and brown, to match up with the blue, orange, green, and brown color code. And if I look closely, I'll see white, blue, blue, white, orange, orange, white, green, green, white, brown, brown. The way patch panels work, the white wire always goes to the left of the color bar, and then the colored wire goes to the right of the color bar, right down the line. And that's the that's remaining from the days of phone with tip and ring wire. Tip, ring, and so forth. So now that I found the port I'm terminating, I recognize my color code, and for just visually for you guys, I grabbed a Sharpie and marked these to make it easier. I now know where I'm terminating, and I'm going to do 6 for an example today. Now I can prep my cable for terminating. So I'll take my cable here, use my jacket stripper, and I'm going to give it maybe an inch or 2. I don't need a whole lot, but a little bit is actually hard to deal with. So I'm going to strip maybe an inch and a half, something like that. Label up on this guy, give it a spin or 2 around. Remember on this one, if I kind of give it a little bend, I should see the insulation kind of break open, and then I can pull it off the end. I'll cut off my floss wire here, so that's out of the way. And now I'm going to organize my wires so they'll fit onto my patch panel. Okay, so here on the bottom row I have blue, orange, green, and brown. So I'm going to turn my cable so blue is on the left, if you will, and I'll bend that out. Brown will be on the right, and orange and green will be in the middle. How about that? And I'm going to start to orient my wires a little bit so that when I lay them over my patch panel, they're pretty well spaced out for me. Okay. What I need to do now is get them into these little slots, and these slots are plastic, so they actually have a little bit of friction to them. Let me try this here to see if I can get a little closer for you. There we go. That should be a little closer. And there's a little bit of friction to the plastic here that if I kind of just push them with my fingers, that'll be enough until I can come back with my punch down tool and punch them in properly. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. You can, if you want to, untwist your wire. Let me do it here where you can see what I'm doing. Down to the point that it just kind of fits into the block. So I could do this, that it's untwisted to the point where it'll fit into my block. And that's okay. The other way to do this is I actually leave the wire twisted, and I use that color bar as almost like a separator to separate the wire pair and slide it over. That usually works a little bit better to keep the cable twisted to the point of termination. That usually works pretty well, just like that. So find the one that's going to work for now, but you're really interested in trying to keep that twist to the point of termination. And if you look, these here are a little bit better twisted than the blue one that I did. That's one of the reasons that's usually the preferred method, that route that way. Okay, these are all in. White, blue, blue, white, orange, orange, white, green, green, white, brown, brown. Looking good. I'm just going to give them just a little friction fit with my fingers. And if I were doing a couple, I could probably put another cable or 2 in here before I worry about punching in. All right, we now need to punch it in to terminate. And to do that, I'm going to use my punch down tool. So let me bring my camera up just a little bit. I'm going to use my punch down tool. This is what's in your toolkit. This may or may not be on here. This was a little protector cap for the end. But you actually have, this is the handle, and this is the punch down part that's designed to push the wire in place and also cut the excess wire off. There's a little chisel on here to cut the excess wire out. Now, most punch down tools are a type that you can actually change this blade here. This actually, if you do like a little quarter twist, will allow you to slide it out to replace. And there is a flat end here, and then there's the chisel end. We want the chisel end out so that as we punch, it cuts off the excess wire. You'll notice then with the chisel here, on our tool, there's a little like scissor symbol indicating this is the cut side of the tool. That's important. As we go to terminate, we'll have the cutter on the correct side. If I have it on the wrong side, if I do it down here, it cuts the wire off before it gets to the patch panel. And that's no good. Okay? So I want to pay attention to that. In addition, most of our punch down tools will have an impact setting. There's a low and high setting. We're going to leave it on low. What that is there's actually a spring mechanism in here that when I push this in, the spring actually does a little punch to punch the wire in. And that keeps all of our punches at a consistent pressure instead of me trying to keep it consistent on my own, which would never happen. So this is there, the spring-loaded mechanism is there to punch them in for me, but keep them all consistent. So we're going to leave that on the low setting. You also notice in the back there's an opening, and there's actually a spare chisel end or a tip to this, and that's really for 66 or phone block termination. So that's there in case we ever need it. Just leave it there. We don't need it for what we're doing. All right, so I have my tool. I have it set on low. It's a little knob that you can twist between high and low. We're going to leave it on low. I'm going to take my punch down, and I want to make sure the chisel side is up here where the waste wire is. And I'm going to line it up right on top. I'm trying to make sure you can see that. Right on top of the wire I'm terminating. And the tool itself fits down in between there's a slot, if you will, that it fits down between. We're going to go right on top of the tool we're terminating with the chisel end, in this case, up here where the scrap is. I'm going to keep it nice and straight, and I'm going to push down. Let me see if I can get this so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Oh, got a little crooked on me. Hold on. There we go. I'm going to go right down on top and give it a push. And it should cut the excess wire off for me. And I'm going to continue that the whole way down on top of every wire that I laid in place there. And it does not take much force. You just want to even pressure down. Let the tool do the work for you. There's the orange wire. White, green. Green. White, brown. And then make sure my brown is in there. There we go. And if you have one that's just kind of hanging around, give it a little wiggle. It should come off. And I'm just going to tip my scraps off the end out here and push them off to the side. There is my wire terminated. Excellent. The only thing left to do is I do need to test my cable run to make sure it works. So I'm going to need my meter, but this time I need the little mini patch cables because one mini patch cable is going to go in the patch panel. The other mini patch cable is going to go into the outlet that I terminated previously. So here's my outlet. It really doesn't matter which end. I'm just going to plug one end into it. I'm going to take my patch panel and I'm going to carefully tip it over. And I want to make sure that I plug into the port I terminated. In my example, I did 6. If you did 8 or 10, again, that's fine. Just make sure you're plugging into the port you terminated. I'm going to flip it back over. Try to get everything to show here. There we go. So there's my patch panel, my outlet, and here's my meter. I'll give it a test, and I'm looking for that. All 4 wires, all 4 wire pairs are complete. It sent a signal through my horizontal cabling to the outlet, to the other end of the meter, and back to here. And I get a full path. That's what I want to see. So if you have that, this is when you pause, get your camera out, laptop camera, tablet, whatever you got, and you want to take a picture of this, making sure I see the meter, outlet, cable run, patch panel, the whole 9 yards. I want to see everything because I want to see your termination back here. So do this kind of thing where you kind of have it all crowded in and take a picture of this with it tested, showing it working. All right. That would be everything you need for proof of doing this termination. Now, if by chance you have an issue with this, you go to test this, and let me snip a wire here just to show you what it might look like. If I have a bad termination, so I'm going to snip a wire down here. There we go. And I test this, it's going to come up with, hey, there's a wire pair not showing. So use my color code. 1, 2 is my orange. 3-6 is my green, 4-5 is my blue, 7-8 is my brown. So if I see a missing wire there, I'm going to check for that. I'm going to look for a bad termination, on this case the brown wire pair. The other thing I can do, if I hold this button down, hold it down for a couple seconds, it goes through and checks each wire pair and says, okay, 1-2 is good, 3-6 is good, 4-5 is good, and then it's going to say 7-8. That's showing an open. It tried and nothing was there. So in this case, it's an open. So again, since I just did this end, I would check here. In this case, I saw a snipped wire because I snipped it. And what I can do is I can do one of two things. I can either try to just repunch it because maybe it's loose, or I can actually pull this whole thing out. Okay, it actually, with a little bit of friction, I can pull it out. I might need to use one of my tools here to grab a hold of that little piece. I might actually just try to grab it with my scissors here. Just do a little, try to pull it out. Oop, that didn't work. I'm also going to try, in my toolkit is this little guy. I should be able to pull a hold of this and pull him out. But I want to make sure I get my wires out before I try to re-terminate. And that's what these little tools are for, to help you get those out. Then I can cut my wire off, prepare it, and re-terminate. You can re-terminate it the same spot a few times before it wears out. So if you get a fault, try to use that little fault check to see if you can narrow down what it is. Look if that's the issue, and if need be, carefully pull the wire out, snip the end off, re-strip, lay it in, and re-terminate. That'll usually catch it. Okay. If you have any other odd problems, we might need to use our Zoom connection so I can see your meter and see what's going on, so I can help you figure out what might need to be repaired. So there is your patch panel lab.